afternoon. Our guest speaker today is Professor Canan Özgen. She is the former director of our institute. She served as the director of the institute for 11 years until she's retired. She's a professor of chemical engineering. She's the director of the Center for Applied Ethics, and she served as a department chair for 6 years in chemical engineering departments. She has several MS and PhD students graduated under her supervision, and she has a very large number of publications. I can extend this list. She first formulated synthesis projects, and also she is the frontier in the use of tertium program in NATO. She served for several different projects for our graduate school, and several new programs, several new rules, regulations. I would like to thank her for all these achievements and invite her for her speech on research and publication ethics.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yes, the heading is Publication and Research Ethics. Because we think that our ÖYP students, if they are aware of these concepts, it will be for their future also, it will be beneficial for them. But I know that you will become faculty members when you graduate from your PhD. All of our PhD students will not become faculty members, will not be going to universities to be a teaching member, but you will be of that after graduation. So it's very important that in your universities, in your departments, the ethical awareness can be done by the help of your motivations. Tomorrow I will be talking on actually relating to university ethics, where we can have many different methods to teach ethics to the students. If you will be interested after my talk, you can come also to that lecture to listen how we are actually trying to find different methods for the ethics education, especially in science and engineering departments. Because in social sciences, they have actually enabled ethics education in their normal programs. Yes, how important are ethics in today's society? We can ask this question, and relating to that, of course, we will have some answers. Actually, in the 21st century, and even in the last quarter of the 20th century, we had seen that the critical technologies, and especially the inventions in the communication, has been extensively increased. Such that if you invent something in any part of the world, previously it would have taken many years to have that product in your country. That means to have the implementation of a new invention in a different country had taken too much time. But nowadays it is not like that. When there's something new invention, it's suddenly you can have it from the internet, you can buy it, and you can have that product to be useful immediately. However, the social considerations relating to these inventions are not at the same pace of these technological developments. Therefore, we are in need of, we say, ethical awareness. A good decision, yes, can benefit millions. Like, for example, if penicillin have been invented, and we can have it immediately, how nice, you can benefit from an antibiotic or a drug which will, of course, for example, will save many lives. Nowadays we have different, of course, cancers and so many different illnesses. You can have a cure immediately. But an ethical one can also be cripple our future. I have an example relating to this unethical one. It was in 1957, but in German, they had invented a new drug. And before applying it and before finding its side effects, they start to use this. Even the pregnant woman had used it because the drug was good for gastrics and also for tension and therefore blood pressure and so forth. And they start to use it immediately in that country. The name of the drug was thalidomide. And after the use of it, and hundreds of thousands of people used this, they found that there had been some problems in the born child. The lips, they hadn't any lips, arms or fingers. So this was a very important actually result, and this is because unethically they have started to use the drug. Such things can happen, especially in medicine. It's very important because many new inventions in drug actually industry has been taking place, and you can immediately start the use of these drugs. So they have to be used first on animals, and then they have to take time for them to be ethically used in different places. Well, Ahmed is a graduate. He's a graduate of our electrical engineering department, and he had been the head of the philosophy department of our university, retired just recently. I have taken this from one of his papers. He said, human can easily be guided and used by the made globalized technology. Technology is our products. Humans are producing technology. However, technology is swallowing the people who have planned and made it. So what's happening? Technology is leading and we are following it. I can give you an example again related to technology. For example, the cellular phones that we are using. I have rejected the use of cellular phones once because it was taken my freedom. Everywhere you can call and you have to answer and so forth. So I was just not using any cellular phone for a certain period of time. But later my daughter has given a present to me on my birthday. I have to use it, and now I am using it. I cannot do without it. So this is a very good example how technology is swallowing us. It's wonderful, of course. Library is there, internet is there, you have the camera there, okay? You have your notebook there. So I mean, you have to use it, otherwise you can't do it without it. So this is therefore is very important, and we have to know the ethical, of course, concepts relating to technological developments. This is a saying from a Russian author, Solzhenitsyn. Actually, he had passed away in 2008. He was a Nobel laureate. Once he were in Russia and then escaped, and he said, I lived my life in a society where there was no rule of law, and that was a terrible existence, but a society where the rule of law is the only standard of ethical behavior is also as that. That means you can have laws, but what about ethics? So I have another slide to differentiate between the two. Actually, law and ethics, they resemble each other. Okay? So some of the ethic codes in time become the codes of rules of law. Actually, we are aiming to obtain them. But not all the laws just face for ethical needs. And usually, they are taking the origin from justice, but the area of ethics is much more broader. And we can say that there are some points where there is no law, but ethics is valid for those cases. There is no law to say you that you must close your cellular phones in a seminar, in a theater, or in a conference room, or in, for example, stomach. There is no law like that. But ethically, you know that you must not use your cellular phones. You must not leave them open so that there will be no ringing. So this is ethics, for example. And this is also valid for publication and research ethics also. There are no laws to say many things for us, to say how we should do research or how we should do a publication. And ethics is valid for those cases where there is no law actually. Now, there is also one important point. You can put codes of ethics, you can put laws, but if there is no consensus in the society, there will be again chaos. This is the same for the societies, engineering society, social societies, or university, in the university environment. So we have to have, in the professions, different professions, some consensus. That means we have to behave the same way so that there will be no chaos. Okay? So you can put many things, but the laws cannot prevent the chaos if you don't have the consensus. Now I am going to give you some definitions relating to ethics so that you understand the same thing when I just consider the ethics. Many different, maybe 9 different definitions. Why there are so many definitions? Because each person can understand different things from each definition. It is not as certain. For example, ahlak ve etik. Actually, they sometimes mean the same thing. So in order to differentiate many things, because I am an engineer, I look at it in a systematic way, I will give you different definitions. And then some cases, of course, relating to publication ethics. Ethics in scientific research, code of conduct for scientific research, and for a good publication, some guidelines. And maybe lastly, I will talk about our Research Center of Applied Ethics. But as I said to you, I will not mention anything about the ethics education at university, because I don't have much time to go over that one. It will take about 1 hour to go over it. And of course, I will not tell you much about what we had done relating to ethics education in this Research Center of Applied Ethics. So it is another hour of talk. Morality. When we say morality in Turkish, we mean ahlak. Okay? Morality is coming from mos, a Latin word, and refers to those standards of conduct that we want everyone to obey. For example, don't lie, don't kill, don't cheat, keep your promises, are these standards of which we want every rational person to actually obey. But don't forget that some morality rules can change from society to society. Okay. Ahlak, bazı toplumlardan toplumlara. It can differ. And however, in ethics there is no such case. Ethics is standards are worldwide must be same. Ethics is coming from ethos, it's a Greek word, and it means customs. Aristotle defines it as science dealing with character. Or it is the science studying the ideal living character and activities. It's actually examining moral life, ahlak hayatımızı, in a systematic way. This definition is from Akın Ergüden, who was a former head of the philosophy department. Akın Ergüden is saying, is also defining ethics in a very practical way. He says, when you are in a condition of deciding, there is a case, there is a problem, and you want to solve this, but you can do A, B, or C, or D, and you want to decide which one to apply, and you start thinking about it. Which one is actually the correct way? Which one is the better way? And at that point, he said, ethics starts, when you are thinking systematically to find the best way for the solution. So it is also his definition. I have many others which you like, I think. For example, ethics is about how we meet the challenge of doing the right thing when that will cost more than we want to pay. I am giving this example to the students when I say, I have given you homework. You can just spend some time, hours, to solve this homework. That's what is your expenditure. But then you can say, well, I can just copy two of the homework problems from one of my friends, I will spend half time. Okay? But if you do this, well, maybe I cannot find that you have done this, but you will not learn. And it's not ethical, and you have to learn what is given to you by solving your homework. So it is how we meet the challenge of doing the right thing that will cost more than we want to pay. This is also, you can just extend it to many other things. Socrates, who lived 2,000 years ago, stated that ethics is knowing what we have to do, how we are going to behave. Okay? And Yonda Kuchirati, she was a professor at Hacettepe University. She was the head of the World Philosophy Society, and she now retired but still continuing her work. I put it in Turkish. So it is the action that you do which actually spends minimum amount of values and spares maximum amount of values. Value, virtue, or value there. Okay? So it is actually in any action that you do, that's how she defines it. Yes, this is the definition that I like most. So I left it to the last one. Ethics is like a gyroscope. It's a mechanism that must be used in our, of course, actions, consciously and continuously to maintain direction, stability, and equilibrium. Okay. Yes. We are, I have used this slide. It is from Chagall. Chagall has actually painted this one and explained it as I and my village. The name is I and my village. He then explained this art piece as he said, I am Chagall because of my family, because of my school, because of my religion, because of my relatives. So everybody has an effect on you. Your friends, for example, maybe the most maximum influence you take from your friends, but also your families and the schools in which you are educated. So personally, everyone is affected by their environments, by the families that have been educated. So this is just an art piece to give us that we are educated, affected by everything around us. So we are, when we consider the ethics, actually whatever we search for, we can find it in ourselves. This is an art piece from Escher. Escher is a Dutch, actually, graphic designer, and he had always used philosophy behind his art pieces. Now, this is of course black and white. It is a very good contrast, a figure which is giving a combination of different contrasts. Day and night, two stills, just mirror image. And now I just want from you to concentrate on white colors. On white colors. What do you see? When you concentrate your eyes, just close and concentrate on white colors, you see what? Birds?
Birds.
Yes. Where are they flying? From left to right. Okay? So there's a motion in the art piece. Now please concentrate on dark color, black. What do you see now? You see again birds. Now black birds, but they are flying from night to day. It's the harmony of contrast, and it depends upon us to understand the figure, to have the motion in the figure. Ethics is like that. We can act either correctly or wrongly, depending upon us and how we are educated. Okay. When we come to scientific research, actually the curiosity of human, because of it, to understand what is happening in the nature, we have asked questions and we try to answer them in history. So this cover goes to the start of science and scientific research and science. And actually science, when we say science, it is the activity of searching for truth. Why there is rain, why there is wind, why there is, of course, snow, and so forth, and earthquake. So we have searched for truth, actually. We try to understand the nature. That is why science started, actually. And therefore, we can say that scientific knowledge is found by collecting, organizing, and interpreting the truth. There is no other thing than truth in the science, therefore. Okay? And the integrity in scientific science requires to be moral, to be honest, to show respect to reality, and to be truthful in the action of searching. So you see, in all the things, we are always saying integrity, honesty, and so on. And whatever we find must be complete. You cannot say that I found something, but I am not very sure. It should be complete, it should be without defect, and it should be, of course, integrity must be involved. In the scientific world, coming from before the Christ, actually, there is always in it, in itself, a self-control structure. Okay? Nobody can be a scientific person if he or she was not, of course, honest. Depending upon the scientific ethics, there was a confident atmosphere, everybody believed, and even the society have respect to scientific people also. That's also very important. But something is happening in the scientific world. So now we are trying to see what things are happening in the scientific world. I will give some examples. The first example that was published in Cumhuriyet journal, and it was from a social science department in an institute from the university in Turkey. A lawsuit has been started for a student who had submitted a thesis by only altering the name of the thesis previously submitted in United Kingdom. In the process of investigation, some other ethical problems were also found. First. And then another article from the, again, India, and in Harvard University, a young public sociologist was supported financially by the university because of the 5 project she has taken on gender discrimination of women in society. And she had published 4 papers. After some investigation, it is found that she hadn't had the questionnaire which is collected from 600 people, but she had prepared everything on paper. False. Everything was false. She resigned from the university. 2 articles. A Nobel Prize winner. This is a very important case, Millikan case. And he was actually won Nobel Prize in 1923. And prize was given to him due to experiments he had performed to measure the electron dose of electrons. Later, when the data not published was examined by some students later coming, it was found that among 140 experiments, Millikan had not included 49 of them in the papers. So 1/3. However, he had written in the paper that he had included all the data he had collected. Including these data would not cause any change in the final result, but results would have been more confident and experiments would have been explained more clearly. But of course, this is not ethical. Another case from Turkey, this was also a very interesting problem. A neurosurgeon in 1999 published a paper in a very prestigious journal, European journal. After reading the paper, the director of Research Institute, where he had went actually in Norway, sent a letter to his university and to the journal, reporting that this research was not done in their research center and that they do not have the equipment that was used in the research. The investigation was done by the Higher Education Council of Turkey, and this person has to resign from the university. Of course, in the coming issue of the journal, they have just announced that there is falsification, publication, and fraud in the previous paper that has been published in that journal. Another case, David Baltimore case. He had actually from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who was a very prestigious university. He was the owner of a Nobel Prize, the director of a large research group. In the group, a postgraduate researcher claimed that another researcher in the group published a paper by fabrication data. In 1996, $10 billion per year was denoted to research. Baltimore had to resign from the university. Although he had been a Nobel laureate, he had to resign from the university. There are many other cases. I will just go over them, not in more detail, but just to give you an idea. From different countries, in different levels, German scientists confess that they made experiments on prisons. You know that this has been done during their period, the Nazi period, and they had done on the prisoners some experiments. The results of the experiments were valuable, and medical experiments were done, but they didn't have the permission of the prisons. They have forced them. In between 44 and 80, a similar thing has been done in the United States, and research was done on people to search the effect of radiation, even on pregnant women, even on cancer patients and military persons, and without informing them. In 1974, William Summerlin made experiments on mice, and he later confessed that he had made the black spots and fabricated the data. That he had put dots on the mice and done some experiments. In 86, this was the Challenger experiment. That Challenger was a space shuttle who was designed to go and come back, but then they had been made a wrong design in the O-rings, and although the engineers didn't want the launch to take place, the upper management did not decide to cancel the launch. And they didn't listen to the engineers. They made a very bad, actually wrong decision. And as a result, 13 people died in the Challenger accident. 1987, Stephen Bruning had 24 papers, and he was accused by fabrication and falsification. These are from, of course, all sides. In 89, Stanley Pons and freshman Flashman had the nuclear fission at room temperature. However, they haven't repeated the experiments, and they just published a paper. It was again a false result that they obtained. And even in Turkey, many people have tried to repeat these experiments and spent from TÜBİTAK some research money, and they couldn't obtain the same results. In 2002, in Bell Laboratories, it's a very famous laboratory, again, Henrik Schön, accused of FF, in 17 papers published in Nature, Science, and Physical Review. In 2005, in Vermont University, Eric Polman confessed that he had done falsification and in his 17 publications, and he had been supported from the government by 15 projects. FF is publication and falsification. And this is also very interesting. In 2005, we see that Borsuk had done experiments on stem cells, and they had very large amount of project monies during the 10 years. And however, they found that it was false, and Sale University had taken back all these degrees. In 2007, we had again a case. Two PhD students had 19 publications in one of our departments, physics departments, and it was found that they had plagiarism, and their papers are removed from the physical reviews. Academics can show misconduct. Now, again, another art piece from Picasso now. We cannot say that in academia there is no unethical things happening. We have some things happening. Therefore, we must not fool ourselves. We have to know this and take the precautions. Okay? I have used this art piece because in the mirror, there is a lady looking at the mirror, and they say that when the ladies look at the mirror, they can see that they cannot see themselves, but they see somebody else who's beautiful. So they are just have a smile on their faces, they never see the white hair and wrinkles on their faces. So we shouldn't fool ourselves. We must know that there are some misconduct going on and we have to prevent this. We have to work for this. And for this, leaders are very important and teachers are very important, instructors are very important. Now, let me just give you, again, a paper from Nature. This is a little bit 10 years ago, but still, the questionnaires were done on 3,247 people, and relating to many misconducts that I will cover them later on: data falsification, conflict of interest, plagiarism, not declaring data which is conflict with some previous research. These are percentages that has been done by these researchers. And above 10, consideration of others' data which is wrong or suspicious, 12.5%. To change design method or result with the pressure of the financial supporting institution, 15.5%. Giving post-authorship to ones who have no contribution to any part of the study, 10%. To keep some methods and results secret, 10.8%. Wrong and not appropriate research designs, 13.5%. And not to consider some of the data in evaluation, thinking that they are wrong, 15%. And not to keep proper reports in research project, 27.5%. Okay? These are large numbers actually. Ethical problems are seen, especially in the last 2 decades, maybe starting from 1990s, we can say. Why? Why? Because there is a large increase in the number of scientific people. It's an example just for 30 years, starting from 6 to 96, because the difference is not large nowadays, but you see in 61 it was 5,000 members, in the Physics Society in 30 years it's 8 times more. And now it's also increasing in Turkey, in all around the world also. So this increase, of course, will lead many things, and especially insufficient research, education and discipline. This is also another reason. Increase of competition, that means you have to apply for project money to different sources. There's a very large competition. You can have many pressures from your also upper management. There are more publications, and you know that more publication is more prestige and more power. Desire for higher rate for promotion, task, maybe you can say, and you want to be well known. Sometimes we have financial gains. Those 2 students from the physics department, for example, bought some cars because of the papers that they have published, 19 publications. So they have taken some money from the TÜBİTAK, also from our university, and they bought some cars, so financial gains. It can be, of course, some psychological effects because of these reasons. In the university, scientific research is done to produce knowledge. And of course, this knowledge is transferred by papers. And the faculty that we are talking about, faculty members, are responsible from the education. They are responsible from the research, and they are responsible also as a result of the research for publication, and they have to apply, do some projects which are social responsibility, we call it, and they do some consultancies. In all these steps, ethics is important. In every step, ethic behavior is very important. Especially for the scientific faculty, there are some responsibilities. And scientific integrity is the value where trust is the basis. And we have to protect the values depending upon the integrity and trust. Research is a passion. To be an academic person is also a passion. With our skills, we call this creative skills, we sacrifice in order to find an answer to the question. It is very exciting, you know, we are very excited in doing the research, that is why we are here. We are very excited to teach also, but this is a tiresome actual lifestyle. It's a very tiresome and devoted lifestyle. So because we are actually giving our life for such a goal, it should also be very important that integrity must be involved in it. Otherwise, we are spending our life useless. Now, in research, we have to always ask some questions to us. Where are we going in research? Sometimes the researchers can forget themselves. Sometimes, for the betterment of mankind, although doing the research, we can sometimes, doing the research, we can lose the thinking that the research must be for the betterment of mankind. And they obtain sometimes guidance from Martin Luther King, who said, science deals mainly with facts, religion deals mainly with values. And sometimes they got the guidance from Einstein. Religion without science is lame, science without religion is blind. So when we say religion, of course, you have to be careful. And all the religions are for actually serving humans, serving society for their benefits. In all these, whether it comes from religion or somewhere else, ethical and moral values are important for science. And otherwise, if a scientist will not think about ethics and integrity, the things that they found can be threats to the society. I can give us an example from chemical engineering. Haber was a very genius chemist, and he had many inventions relating to, he had found synthetically many different chemicals. But during the war, Germans forced him to produce a weapon, chemical weapon, in order to use it in the Second World War. And he had done this. He had produced chlorine gas, which is, as a result, resulted in the death of thousands of people. His wife tried to prevent him, but he had given his research to the government, Nazi government. And because of this, when she had seen the result of the invention of her husband, the wife committed suicide. This is an unethical behavior. You have to know the effects of what you find, like atom bomb, of course, you can also test it. So we have to know the moral and social sequences of our advances. We have to be careful. Later on, I will end, of course, saying that we can search everything. We can do research on everything, but when it comes to application, we have to stop there. Where to use it is important. How to use it is another thing which is very important. When we consider ethics, there are two important points. One of them is the standard, a code. We can have standards, and we have to know the standards, ethical standards. But it's not all. The other thing which is important, the will to follow it. The standards, you can easily find standards and formulate them and write them. But how we are going to follow it is something else that we have to think about. And as teachers, as instructors, as managers, we have to create this will in the societies where we are dealing. Code of ethics, as I said, codes, its aim is to prevent mistakes. Aim is to serve as a guide and to serve humanity, of course, in a better way. Ethical codes can be used to find the ethical codes in research. In any, of course, profession, we can have ethical codes, and they are the same as research codes. And sometimes ethical theories, which I will shortly mention, will be helpful to you. Now, these are the research ethic codes. To have highest professional standard, if you are going to do a research, you must be well educated on that area. And you have to protect self-criticism, you have to protect honesty and transparency, and also you must be respectful to the work of others. If there is somebody who has done the same work before you, you have to respect him or her. If there is somebody who's helping you in your research, you have to give respect to them. If a company is helping you with money, you have to, of course, be respectful to their input to your research. There are ethical theories which have been generated, some of them by Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. But of course, by Stuart Mill is the utilitarianism and happiness is the first ethic theory. It says that to maximize human well-being. When you are an engineer, let us say, in a factory, and you know that something is not good, you have a water that you just have to spill off to the river, and you know that there is some toxic material in the water, and you want to prevent it. You go to your upper management to say it, but upper management says, well, I don't have to spend much more money to purify the water, you have to use it. Now you have a duty for your upper management, but you have a duty also to your family and to the people, society. What are we going to do? There is a dilemma there, okay? So this understanding is to maximize human well-being. If you don't obey the rules of the upper management, they will throw you out. What are you going to do with your family? So there's a conflict there, and you have to be very careful. So basic concept is most good for the most people. You have to always consider this as the first ethical theory. The second one is duty ethics. We have some duties, and these duties must be, they have to be fair to others, and we have some universal duties. We have to obey these duties. Once our duties are recognized, the ethical actions are obvious. And the right ethics, human rights, liberty rights, welfare rights. Okay? So we have to also consider all these rights. And the last one is the virtue ethics. And virtue ethics focuses on responsibility, honesty, competence, and loyalty. Virtue ethics is closely tied to personal character, but cannot be separated from the business morality also. So actions are considered right if they support good character virtues. Okay, code of conduct for scientific research is divided into different sections relating to supervision of the research, depending upon the data and data analysis, human and animals, how we use them in our research, conflict of interest, and patent rights. So I don't have time to go over all of these, but my slides will be on the web page and you can use them. So on each of them, we have many things to say. Role models. Supervisors are role models. In the future of your lives, as you become faculty members, you will be supervisors and you will be role models. And you have to be ethical so that your students will learn from you. This is very important. And each research necessitates supervision, don't forget. Data. You have to keep your data for 5 years for scientific papers and 20 years for your patents. They have to, data must be collected with equipment that can be reliable and appropriate. This is a very important. If you collect data wrongly, then what you find will be, of course, wrong. And analysis is important here. It must be analyzed by appropriate methods. Conflict of interest, çıkar çıkması in Turkish. So you have to be very careful, especially in doing research, especially with those companies that give you money, and two groups working on the same field also, or scientific and trade relationships. You have to be very careful in this respect. For the use of animals, we have now an ethics committee relating to do research on animals. And if you want to do some research, especially questionnaires for human, you have to prepare a protocol, and you have to take from our human subjects committee. It must be approved by this committee, and you have to take approval from the ethics committee. It's very important. Patents, secrets of genetic knowledge or human under, you must not tell anybody the name of the people that you have collected your data. Okay, a good research must be well justified, must be well planned and designed. You have to take ethical approval, and statistical issues must be considered in your research. I'm not going to go over this because it's long, but for the scientific publication I want to say some few words. It's very important that after you collect data from your research, you have to just publish this, what you have found by scientific papers. In publication, the very important point is to share it with others so that you have some feedbacks. And that's very important to have some citations. And of course, to have the promotions. But this is not the initial goal, actually. Initial goal is to discuss the findings, to share it with others for searching the truth. But now the goal is usually publish, because if you don't publish, we will perish. There is actually a website which is related with the Committee of Publication Ethics, COP. You can go to internet and just when you write COP, you can find this page. It is a recent one, 1997, and it concerns publication and research ethics, and it has many advices. So you can go and just search in this web page how they have listed some codes, but the codes can only be considered advisory, okay? And relating to sources, relating to methods of analysis, experimental procedures, authorships, they give you many advices, especially, for example, relating to authorship. You can include in your publications names of the people who have really given effort for that study. Really given effort either in the design of the study, in the analysis, evaluation of the data, or in the preparation of the paper. Others cannot be given an authorship in your publications, okay? And usually, at the start of a research, you have to discuss this case with your partners. Will they be authors in a research article that you are going to prepare? A protocol must be prepared, okay? Sometimes somebody is doing, for example, he or she is a technician in the laboratory, and he or she is using an equipment to analyze your data, but you cannot use him or her in your publications, okay? It is he or she is responsible. Their work is that they have to deal with the data because of using that instrument. And all the authors have to have responsibility in contents of the publications. You have to, of course, use the instruction for authors, but the number of authors, there is no rule with that. But it's very important that you have to sign a copyright form, and original signatures must be taken from all the authors, and usually the person who has done the experiments will be the first author. And the last author will be the person who's guiding the research, that means your advisor. So he or she can be the last author, an original author, and the first one is the person who has done the research, who has done the experiments. Now, I am just skipping these. Acknowledgements must be directed to secretarial services, technical services, that means the technicians, and sometimes organizations who had given you, for example, money. There are some misconducts. I have brought you some papers today to give you some information about these misconducts, but in general, we can explain the misconduct by every attempt which reduces the value and integrity of research and publication, we can say. Sometimes we can do some sloppy science carelessness. These are not misconducts, but which are done on purpose. Fabrication, uydurmacılık, sahtecilik, falsification, bilecilik. Duplication, you send the same paper to different journals. This is duplication, okay? And conflict of interest, we said this one, and plagiarism. What is plagiarism? If you have taken some sentences, some paragraphs from other papers, books, journals, and you don't cite the journal, the author, that is plagiarism. It is simply called intihal, aşırma. Okay? You are stealing, actually. Presenting submission of someone else's ideas or phrasing without clearly acknowledging the source of that information. Okay? Either by carelessness, by purpose. This is very, very important, and we have to know how to avoid plagiarism. And the worst plagiarism is word-to-word copying without citing. So there's an example. This is an example. Let me just say, where is it? Yes, for example, this is the original source. This is the paragraph that is taken from a source. And in the student homework, you can see the same, all the things the same, only the last sentence is added by her or him. And there is no, quotation for reference. The thing that has to be done is this one. You have to put in quotations. Even you can put it in italics. Sometimes italics is also very important to put it in italics, and you see that there is citation, and this one, the last sentence, is his or her own saying. The second form, you can change the wording of the sentences and paraphrase the system like this. Two different types of models. It's taken actually from the paper, but you have rephrased and you have used the last sentence and no citation, you see. However, it should have been like this. I think I have the example. Yes, sample version. This is May et al. State that two models have been formed, so you are using your names, but phenomenological model and fundamental model has been taken from their paper, and the last sentence is yours. Plagiarism is very commonly seen, but if you know how to do it, then how to prevent it, then it is easy to use many sources, because we want you to use many sources in your papers, in your thesis. And it is very important that you have to start early in writing your literature, and you have to take notes sometimes, references, and keep notes for your own ideas. And always make a reference when you paraphrase or summarize from a paper. Okay, you have to think every side of your actions. When you plagiarize, you have to know what will be coming after it. It is the Picasso's, again, an art. He has drawn Dora Maar from the side and from the front view to show all the face actually. So when you do something, you have to consider all the results of your actions. As Escher said, you can have a fast rise, you can have promotions, but if somebody finds it, then your drop, your descent will be even faster, as I have given you the examples. So John Adams said, the preservation of freedom is mainly based upon moral character and intellect level of individuals. If wisdom and values are integrated to large groups of nations, then there is no possibility of making them slaves. The last point is Turnitin, which I'm not going to give because I have more than 3 slides, but Turnitin is a software to prevent plagiarism. And at the end of your thesis, after you just have your thesis examination, your thesis, we will give you a number, and by that way you will use the software, and you are going to find yourself your errors, and you are going to correct it. And in our Graduate School of Nature and Applied Sciences, we want only maximum 20% of resemblance of your thesis work and with the published papers. 126 countries are using Turnitin. More than 10,000 institutions are using it to prevent plagiarism. To help you, we started in 2010, so it is now 5 years, 15th of March, and all our students are used to it, and we don't have any plagiarism in our theses. And from there, when you produce papers, you are free now. You are on the safe side. Okay? So that's why we have used the plagiarism, and 20% maximum similarity must be done. Now, this is my last slide. All of you, are actually going to convey our knowledge, the culture of Middle East Technical University to the universities that you will be working later on. And I hope that instead of complaining about many things which are happening unethically, you can be individually candidates to just lighten the doubts. So thank you very much for listening to me very carefully. And if you have any questions, maybe I can just explain you. I am not going to say anything about my work at the Research Center of Applied Ethics, and we have some other codes that I'm going to, which we had formulated. I'm going to also give you our guidelines for the Graduate School of Nature and Applied Sciences. These are some ethical conducts that we have. It's easy to write, of course, ethical codes. Also, in this center, we have prepared some books for children between the age of 6 to 9. If you have any child, if you are married, you can take from these books, or if you have some relatives, because we have prepared these books for ethical awareness. And I want you to take from these posters, I think we have only 5 of them, to hang maybe on the doors of your rooms so that everybody can just take benefit from those. Thank you very much. Okay, if you have any questions, I can happy to answer them. Biraz tenüsten aldım galiba. Yes,
While we are doing research, how can we define novel?
Novel?
Being novel and doing something new.
Novelty.
Yeah.
Novelty. Wait, do you ask what is novel?
Yes, doing some ethical things. How can we make it? This is, for example, when we are proposing some methods or, some observation, how can we decide that this is really novel and it will be?
You are going to decide upon it because you are going to do the research, literature survey, and survey what have been done on the area previously. If you cannot find anything, it means it's novel. Otherwise, a PhD study must be novel. An MS study may not be novel. We can repeat what has been done. There is no problem because sometimes some things have been invented, but we don't know how they have done it, and we have to find operating conditions and so many things, so we can repeat some of the things that has been done previously in master search, in master thesis. But PhD thesis must be novel. You have to find new things. So for that, you have to be sure that in the literature there is no such thing. And we have now, facilities, tremendous facilities, and internet. And when you just write there your topic, everything comes there. Previously, when I was a PhD student, we were going to library trying to go over all the journals that we have. And from the recent publication, we were going backwards because they have, references. And we have to, there was no photocopy even on those years. It is unbelievable, but it was like that. And we have to write everything. We have to write everything so that we can use them in our research studies as references in the literature. You have to be sure about it, and your advisor will, of course. I recommend my students to find a recent paper, and from the recent paper go back, other than the research literature survey that you do. That's also a method that you can use. Sometimes you cannot find everything from the internet or from research. And I always advise my students, do it, and then find a recent paper, and from the reference of it, find other papers rated on your topic. Okay? Others? Bana da.
Thank you very much. Ayırdığınız zaman için çok teşekkürler. Çok teşekkür ederiz.
It's a pleasure for me. It's a pleasure for me because ÖYP is a program that I have also had an effort so that it became like this. And we had more than 800 students who graduated. It was a wonderful project. I believed in it. I believed in it as a project of Middle East Technical University to help our country and to raise people, to educate people for other universities. It was a wonderful project and it's still continuing. So it's nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please.